are brand new with us, I am Private Cameron, and I'm currently depicting an Ohio 29th Volunteer Infantryman. In other words, I'm one of the people who would be accompanying General Sherman in 1864 in order to capture the city of Savannah during the March to the Sea. You see, one thing about the March to the Sea is that the Union actually managed to peacefully take the city of Savannah. The Confederates would evacuate on their own accord. But the issue with an evacuation like that is that they left all their junk behind, particularly all the aquatic defenses they would set up during the Civil War in order to dissuade a naval invasion by the Union. So about a mile down the river in this direction here, towards the east, there's going to be all sorts of defenses left in the water. Like things like spikes, which can pierce holes, rubble, which can tear it open, and most importantly, a brand new invention known as the Infernal Machine. In other words, aquatic mines called torpedoes. These are all meant to take out ironclad, ships encased in metal. Some of the most tough and advanced warships during the time period. Meanwhile, if you look down the river towards that white and red ship slowly making its way towards us now, you'll see that ship, the river, the Georgia Queen. You see, that ship is made out of wood. So in other words, I don't think it will last that long against a torpedo. Would y'all agree with that? Yeah, probably not, right? Which is exactly why we are out here today. We are telling them to turn the heck around. Now we do that through one very specific method. See, right here behind me is a cannon that would typically be used during the War of 1812 as a field piece. In other words, you'd roll out into the middle of a field while a battle is about to take place and you use that to shoot at people. That being said, during the Civil War, it'd be enjoyed a nice retirement as a signal gun. In other words, a cannon that's only used to make a loud bang and a loud flash, and that's all it's ever used for. See, this is an action known as hailing. It's a type of code. It's going to tell a ship that we do not recognize to either respond with their own hail, that being their own piece, such as their own signal gun or signal rifle, or raise the flag or honk if they're able to, or some combination of all three. This way we know that we are talking to them, and we can begin to exchange codes. If not, we can only assume that they are a AWOL ship. This is that you typically have 3 tries with a signal gun. You know what happens after the 3rd strike? You're out, and that's why we have those lovely cannons upstairs, for a bit more of a solid impression, to say the least. Thus, we're going to hopefully have only one shot at this today. Hopefully they're going to respawn instantly. If not, well, we also have the cannons upstairs, like I said. But there's a couple of things to consider. For one, see this nice, tough, solid ground that we have the pleasure of standing on today? See, that wasn't there back in the day. See, this was a marsh island right over here. The fort would take up nearly the entirety of said marsh island. Meaning that if we were standing out here in real life during the Civil War, we'd be sinking up to our knees or even up to our waists in swamp slime. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like a great way of getting multiple different diseases. Thus, we have this platform right here. This is for to make sure the cat does not sink into said swamp slime, but also to make sure that we have a nice secure platform for the gunners. Typically, we'd have 3 people operating the piece. 1 to shoot, 1 to load, and 1 that holds all the ammunition. Now, I do not have it out here right now due to repairs that need to be done, but we usually would have something known as a budgie barrel. It's a barrel with effectively a cinched closed canvas top. This would be actually right over here with this little pathway for one very specific reason. See, cannons are known to throw off embers. And while you do not want an ember, an actively burning agent, to touch the barrel full of black powder, hopefully for obvious reasons. Thus, you would be standing out here. Now, it would be very unpleasant to be the individual with the budgie barrel, because you'd have to hold this barrel up in the swamp muck, but it's also the safest position you could be in, because you're going to be away from the cannon that could potentially explode if they misoperate it. Now, with that in mind, you might notice there is a ship slowly make its way here. And I'm going to begin loading the cannon, but before I do that, I need to warn you all about your eye and your protection if you've not done so already, and I am not excluded from this. I'll be explaining what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Now, first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using an implement known as the worm. Now, this little fork that's nice and twisty, what it is used for is that it's going to be used to clear out the cannon of any debris. If this is being actively used, it'd be used to clear out things like burning pieces of wood and cotton. But today, it might just be used to take out a piece of aluminum foil that's left behind in the cannon. Next up is my sponge and rammer. Now the sponge is used to clean out the barrel once again, and to get rid of any burning embers left behind. Once again, you do not want any burning agents touching your cannon for obvious reasons, or touching the black powder for obvious reasons. And then the rammer, much like a ramrod used on a gun, is going to be used to ram home the shot and make sure it's nice and seated in the back. Now next up is going to be this lovely tool right here. You can pull it out, there we go. This nice little spike of metal is one of the most important tools I have in my arsenal. This is a priming wire. Now priming wire is going to be used to pierce the bag of black powder, but also it's going to keep it secure, so that way I can move the cannon without the shot being displaced. Now they'll make their way slowly up here towards us. Emphasis on slow. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing next. Now, the source of ignition is this tiny little copper tube in my hands. This is a priming wire. Not priming wire, a friction primer. My bad, a little tongue tie there, a little slip in the record. Now, this friction primer is going to be composed of match chemicals, black powder, and this little pin right here. In other words, this is a miniature hand grenade. Like we said, it's going to create a nice big explosion inside the cannon, which will hopefully ignite the main charge of black powder. Now, one thing about this is that this requires 50 pounds of pull weight in order to pull the pin. And in addition to that, like I said, it is an explosive, and I would like to keep my fingers in one piece, which is why I have this lovely tool right here. This is a lanyard. That's all it is. It's just a rope with a hook on it. There's nothing special about it. But when combined, this is going to turn this into the world's largest trigger to some of the world's largest guns. With that in mind, now slowly something away. So I have a little extra time to talk about this. Now, during the Civil War, they would also use a couple different forms of priming technology, though not often. This is going to be more of a reserve situation, that they're having to tap into some of the old stuff, such as, but not limited to, quill primers, which are going to be exactly as they sound like. They are a quill that you would typically use to write, filled with black powder that would be stuck inside the cannon, and then you would take a torch and light the quill with said torch. In addition, it was not uncommon to just pile black powder onto the vent itself and light the black powder, though that's going to be the most prone to having misfires. Thus, we don't use it here. Now with that, they are getting nice and close. So I'm now going to prime my cannon here. Now that is the Georgia Queen right there, which is going to be a model of a time period accurate river boat with a steam wheel. Though today they use 2 diesel engines because it's just a little bit more reliable than a steam engine. Cannon number 1 is ready! Cannon number 1, commence fire! No, they did exactly what they were supposed to do there. They hailed me in return with that big old honk. And hopefully they are going to turn the heck around before they run into a torpedo. Now with that, folks, I'm going to do something extremely riveting, extremely interesting, the most interesting thing all day. I'm going to clean up the cannon. So with that in mind, I'm going to release you back to the beauty of our fort. I am available for any questions if you happen to have any. Otherwise, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here at Fort Jackson.
Well, guys, Snowman got to see them shoot a cannon at the ship. I think they missed him, but the ship's turning around.
Yes, my pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves today.
That was really cool. Well, if you liked the video, they do this every day if you come down here when they're open. And they get to fire that one off. They got another one inside that they fire off too. I don't know when, but they do. It's really cool. Love you guys. Bye.